following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WZWA Network, and welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia and Fury. It's a joy to be with you all once again, and this is a big moment for me right here, right now, because this is episode 150, and I was thinking to myself, what is the best way that I could celebrate the 150th episode of this podcast? And I thought long and I thought hard. And I thought to myself, you know what? It might be a good idea to have my first ever return guests return to be on the Insider's Edge podcast once again. And I could not look any further than two guys that were, without a doubt, two of my most favorite interviews that I ever had, because I was a big fan of them back in the day. They both know that. I'm a mark for them. I'm now also a friend of them. Even one of them I speak to almost every single day. That's how great this podcast has been. So without any further ado, please allow me to introduce two members of the Texas Hangmen. Also, two members of the most underrated tag team in WCW history. They are the one and only Disorderly Conduct, Tough Tom and Mean Mike. How are you, boys?
Hey, Carl. How you doing, bud?
I'm good, my friend.
What's up, Carl?
How are you? Tom, Mike, great to have you both here. This is really special for me because of the friendship that has been formed between us from our interviews prior, but also the fact that this is the first time Disorderly Conduct have done an interview together. So this is what it's all about for the Insider's Edge podcast. I'm killing it. So having you both here is fantastic. And I'm just going to get underway with my questions here, boys, because I want to talk about the very early days and when you two first met. And I'm going to talk to Tom here first and foremost. Tom, I'd imagine before you became a Hangman that you two had met prior, because as in my research, I seen that on the 14th of April, 1990, the Hangman, the original Hangman, picked up a win over Tom Bennett and Todd Becker for the AWA in Rochester, Minnesota. So I'd seen that you'd worked with him. So I wanted to ask you, Tom, what did you first think of Mike when you first met him?
Oh, man. No.
Be careful of your answer here, Tom.
Yeah, I know. Actually, we were training, me and my previous partner were training down by Stone, Tom Rocky Stone, and Mike and Frank were getting a big push, starting to get a big push in AWA. Mm-hmm. So they come down to work out one time, and me and my previous partner were in there, and you know, they get in and start working with us and beat our ass basically, you know, but they were getting geared up for TV, you know what I mean? So going against them, like at the TV was pretty easy, just because I knew Mike and Frank, so we knew what to do, and you know, it was a night off. Let's just say that.
Very
nice.
Cool. And throwing it to you now, Mike. What did you first think of Tom when you met him?
Well, when I met Tom, he was with his partner Cully, you know, their James gang, and they were doing a lot of indies. And I met him on the indie scene through Rocky Stone shows. We had all been trained by the same guy. Tom was great. He was a cool dude. You know, I didn't know him well, to be honest with you, but I knew him just from traveling a little bit and all that. And he was always really cool. Cully was really cool. And the James gang, I liked their gimmick. But when we did TV with him, I didn't know him that well at that time. I eventually, of course, got to know him very well. But at that time, he was pretty much just a guy I knew from the indie scene.
Yep.
Right. Very interesting stuff, because it's interesting how that's where it was at one point, and then it becomes this other thing where you kind of tie to the hip eventually.
Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed?
Yeah, right.
And I'm following up with you here, Mike, to maybe explain to those that may not be aware how and when you two became partners, and expand on your search for a permanent partner after the split with Frank Bull Payne. Because from my interview with Tom, he mentioned that you're obviously quite protective over that spot that you were offering in the Hangman, because you'd done quite a lot with that team and you wanted to make sure you found the right guy. So please, for anyone out there that's not aware of that story, the floor is yours.
Well, what happened is after Bull and I split up, he sold me the gear. He decided he wanted to do the Bull Payne gimmick, didn't want to wear the mask anymore, and he wanted to have his valet with him. So he sold me the gear, and the first partner I had was a guy named Rambo Robinson. He was a guy I trained, and I took him to Japan and Korea, and we had a decent tour, but we could just tell it wasn't going to go any further than that. So then I had another friend of mine that I grew up with, actually named George, who wrestled as a spy master independently, and him and I did it for about a year and a half. And we got the Windy City straps, and it was going okay, but him and I kind of butted heads. Him and I are like brothers. We fight a lot, and so we just didn't work out. So then I was like, what am I going to do? I got to get another partner. And I started looking at all the indie guys and all that, and Tom was close to my size. I knew he was a good guy. And I remember, Tom, I called you up, and I said, hey, do you want to come down to the ring in Milwaukee and do like a tryout with me?
I do remember.
Remember? And he came down from Sheboygan, 90 minutes away. And when we got in the ring, I felt like a connection, like we were good together. And I was like, I think this is my next partner. And I said, do you want to do it? And he was like, hell yeah. And off we went, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Cool. So like that's how it all happened. And Tom, you get offered the opportunity to take the Hangman hood. You're bestowed this honor, which is a big deal for Mike. So how did you feel about wearing a mask and hiding that gorgeous mug?
I understand that.
And also,
that part was a shame.
And also, how's the process of bulking up so you could match Mike's size a bit? I think you'd said in our previous interview that he was saying that you probably need to start bulking.
He was pretty close by then.
Right.
Yeah, by the time we took it on the road, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
so by the time you got on the road, you're already
right. You got to remember, Carl. This was a process. This really didn't happen just overnight or anything. Like I said before in the previous deal, Mike. He that was his baby. You know what I mean? So and understandable, right? So as far as asking me, I was I just thought it was awesome, right? Are you kidding me? Of course. I don't know how anybody would say no to that, right? To be honest with you. Wearing a mask was a little different, but like Mike said, we worked out together a bit down in Milwaukee where I was trained and with the hoods on and everything and got a feel for it before we really took it anywhere on the road.
Right. Awesome. So, when you finally did take it on the road, Mike, do you recall when Tom first kind of donned the hood? How did you feel about his early work in the gimmick with you? Because you're used to doing it with Frank for so long. How long did it take you to feel like that? You two were like kind of connecting and clicking as a team.
To be honest with you, I had already teamed with Rambo and my friend George, the Spy Master, and so I was used to different partners. And it had been a while since Bull and I had teamed up. And I always wanted to say thanks to Bull because he was the one who was the original Hangman, and the fact that he sold me the gear was very cool. But when I teamed with Tom, honestly, it was weird. Like we clicked right off the bat. We started doing Windy City. Tom, didn't we have the Windy City straps?
Yes, yeah. Oh yeah.
We had the Windy City straps. They put us over right away. We beat Christopher Daniels and Kevin Quinn, I think. Overkill.
I think you're right, and I think at that time,
and that was a tremendous match. Yeah. Remember that? And that was a good match. Yes, and Tom we just clicked right away. So I knew this was not going to be a temporary partner like Rambo and George had been. I knew this was the guy, and he was eager to learn. When I first took him on, he was still a little green, Tom, a little bit.
Oh yeah, without a question.
But dude, he caught on quick, and he became exceptional quick.
Very good to hear. And I feel like I didn't talk much with you both when I had my solo interviews with you, working for Sam DeCero at Windy City Wrestling. So, and as you mentioned, when I was reading through the results of your matches earlier, and I was like, Christopher Daniels, was he? I didn't realize how long that guy had been wrestling for. So,
yeah.
I guess he's drinking from the fountain of youth. But Tom, what are your fondest memories working there with Mike? And Mike, if you could follow after Tom with your sentiments.
Well, that was, for me, that was like, okay, like, how do I, like a territory, right? I mean, Sam DeCero, I mean, he ran that thing with iron fist, you know, right? First couple times, to be honest with you, I just concentrated on what the hell I needed to do to fulfill my part of the Hangman thing, right? So, you know how it is. After a while, you just get more comfortable and more comfortable. I started knowing the guys and stuff like that. So it was I think it was just a natural progression, right? Just like anything else you do, the more you're there, the more you become comfortable. And so actually, yeah, the first couple times though was a little nerve-wracking for me, just because I needed to live up to a high expectation. So, you know, just it was. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the first couple of times I don't even really remember it. I was just trying to concentrate on what the hell I needed to do, you know. So,
yeah.
And how about you, Mike? Tell me a little bit about Windy City there.
Tom did great. You know, he underestimates himself sometimes. He did great, dude. Sam loved him right off the bat, and that's why they gave us the straps. Little quick note here, not to put myself over, but, you know, I'm not afraid to put myself over. Christopher Daniels and Kevin Quinn were there at that time, and that's the ones we took the straps from. Well, I was also double dipping in Puerto Rico at the time as Mighty Kodiak, and I got them booked. That was his first ever territory, Christopher Daniels. I got him and Kevin Quinn booked in Puerto Rico full time, and they ended up getting the straps there, which led to Christopher Daniels getting a better career. And to this day, he's always been very thankful about it, which is quiet. I'm not saying I started his career.
No, you did.
But but I at least opened up I at least, you know, put his foot in the door, and they got the straps in Puerto Rico, and I would stay with them when I was Kodiak. And he always joke to me because I'd be eating like a big bowl of Cocoa Puffs at night, you know, hanging out with him. He's like, dude, what the hell? I mean, I was a big guy, you know, I was 300 pounds.
Excellent.
Man's got to eat.
Huh? Exactly. That's what I told him.
You two start obviously spending more and more time together as you form this team. Obviously, there was a moment where there had to have been a moment where you both realized that you two were meant for each other. I mean, Mike, you would refer to Tom as your partner to many people, especially even when you went to, you know, hire out a rental car. And for many years, people might have thought that you two were actually together.
Yeah, I told you that. You know, it's so funny looking back, because I'd get a rental car and they'd be like, well, who's all going to be in the car? And I go, oh, just me and my partner. And he'd be standing next to me. I'm thinking partner, like they're going to know we're tag team. But of course, they were like, oh, these are some big gay guys. That's okay. But yeah.
You know, I got to interject here. Now, that was back in the day, though, where it wasn't as loose as it is now, right? Where you do say, now when you do say partner, I mean, it means, you know, a significant
Okay,
other.
but do you really think they said, okay, well, these guys are probably wrestlers and that's his tag team partner? Or do you think they thought, I can tell by looking at Tough Tom that he's a little attracted to Mean Mike?
Yeah, I think it was just a mutual attraction thing. Yep.
Okay, I'll go with that.
That's what I think.
Okay, I'll go with that.
I can tell you, if I was working the rental car company, I'd be like, geez, you know, they must have to get like a double king size bed to fit them both.
I'm sure they were thinking that.
I read that the first trip to Japan for you both together as a team, and again, could be wrong because the internet, as we know, has been wrong many times in the past. IWA Japan in January and October of '95, working at Kurikan Hall. January 2nd. On the 4th and 7th, I don't think I've uncovered this until tonight, working Hiroshi Ono and Terry Funk. If either of you want to trade some fond Japan stories, tell me about working with Terry as well. Also, tell me anything about Tornado Juicy and Grey Skull. The floor is yours. Let's start with you, Tom. Any fond memories of all of these times here in Japan?
Before you speak, this was when we were the Hangman. This wasn't Grey Skull.
Of course.
Grey Skull and Tornado Juicy.
Oh, that was later. Yes.
But Tom, tell him some Terry Funk stories. He was interesting.
Well, he was interesting, yeah. The one that sticks out in my head, and I think I might even mention it in my
I don't think you did.
One. But so if you don't know, you travel on a bus over there, right? And you usually stay for about a month. So after the show, everybody gets on the bus. There's usually beer on the bus and stuff, and so we get in the bus and we're drinking, going to the next town. And Terry, for some reason, is out of it quick, right? So he's napping back in his chair. He's napping back in his chair, right? And we're all shooting the shit and just having a good time. And next thing I know, I look back and Terry sort of comes to a little bit. He goes to do a farmer blow, misses his nose completely. Goes to do it again, misses his nose again, looks over at the drapes on the bus, goes there, blows his nose into the drapes, and back out just like that. I mean, passed out like he crazy.
He blew his nose in the drapes of the bus.
In the drapes on the bus, yeah. That was great. To be there, maybe. It was great. Yeah, that was great.
Terry can pull that off. Nobody else could.
I've already got tears.
He's over there
now. What about you, Mike? The first few times here in Japan, this is pretty special stuff. You have anything that stands out to you?
It was really a cool tour. One of the funnest things was watching Tom, because he's very Sheboygan, meat and potatoes. In Japan, you don't get that kind of food. Watching Tom walk through the city going, McDonald's? McDonald's? All the fucking people there. And they're like, oh, I don't know, because he wanted burgers and stuff. Like, it was so funny. Like, he did not like the food there, but I didn't care. I just ate whatever. But it was a great tour. Was that the tour that we did? Was that the barbed wire match or no? With that had to be with Nakamaki and Ono. Remember the one with the ladder though? Was that one? You think? So we did a ladder. We did a barbed wire bat match with Nakamaki and Ono, these two hardcore Japanese guys, and then they wanted us to incorporate a ladder to it. And we did that, which was our first time with a ladder, but we did good with it. It was great. It's on YouTube. And at the end, I was supposed to go after Nakamaki and he ducks, and I hit Tom. Tom got it right in the teeth with the ladder.
The ladder. Yeah.
But you survived, and we had a good. That was a cool tour. We had a great time. Great time.
Was that? Hey, Mike, was that the tour that I hooked Bull?
Well, yeah, that might have been the one where you and Bull were rapping and ringing. You guys, and you kind of hooked them up a little bit. That was cool. Was that the one that we went to Roppongi and we almost got in it with all those Navy guys? Of course.
The Marine guys.
So Carl, we're in Roppongi, which is the area where all the gaijins, which are foreigners, go to party. And we would have to take a subway all the way there. And then we would party all night. And then you take the subway home. Well, a lot of the bars were underground. They're just cool bars. And we're hanging out at some bar, and Tom gets into it with this Marine or Navy guy or whatever. And they start going at it. And I'm like, oh, shit. And like, Bull's there, too. We were all wrestling as the Monsters at the time. This must have been afterwards. It was Jester, was Bullpain, and I was Grey Skull, and Tom was Tornado Juicy. And all these Marines start popping their heads up, and we realize we're like 3-12. We might get our asses kicked here. Thank God it defused, but that was wild. Yeah, Roppongi was a cool area. It was a tourist area where all the foreigners were. There were people from all over the world, models, people everywhere. And we would always try to go there on our days off. So, yeah, Japan is great. And Tom did great. He did really good. And when we were at Kurokian Hall, I didn't realize that Kurokian Hall only has one side of seating. You know, you
Really?
think it's not like if you ever watch it now, you'll see that. Remember, Tom, there's no people on the one side, and it's just like a big big theater. And it's up by it's like on a, I don't know what floor it's on, but it's you have to take an elevator up. It's like 12 or 13 floors up.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not a standalone building like you think.
Right. That's I never knew that. After all these years of being a wrestling fan and talking to people about working in that place, I finally learned about that. Very interesting.
It's really cool.
Little tidbit there. All the boys signed the wall, right? Signed the wall when you were there, you know.
That's a good point, Tom. There's a wall at the Parochian Hall that all the wrestlers sign. Yeah. And then you can kind of see who else signed, friends years, and you can sign next to them and all that. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Right. Wow. Really cool stuff. Learning things. That's what life's all about, as far as I'm concerned. And more learning to come here in this interview. The run in Windy City does come to an end, Mike. And I wanted to ask you what led to the Hangman's return to Puerto Rico. And then after that, I will follow up with Tom. But how did that come about?
After Windy City, which was kind of like our trial run as the Hangman, I felt like we were ready for Puerto Rico, and I had been there with Bull, so obviously, you know, we had an expectation to live up to. And Tom and I went there, and we had the straps. The first time I was there, our manager was Trophy. This time it was Rico Suave, he was great too. And we were there. How long we were there, Tom? We were there a while, huh?
Yeah, we were. I'd have to say that was probably around a 6 to 8 month deal.
Yeah, maybe a year. But we were there for a while, and it was great. Tom was great. To be honest with you, and Tom will tell you this, Puerto Rico is an easy territory because it's a lot of punching and kicking, not a lot of bumps. The fans respond to everything. It's not a tough territory to work, and as long as you can make sure you get your damn payday, you know, you're great. And then obviously at the end, that's where the problem came in. And if you see that belt next to Tom, that's part of the not getting paid Puerto Rico thing.
That was our pay.
That was his. Yeah, that was. We both have one of those. Yeah.
Excellent. No, I remember you showed me the belt in your interview, Mike, when we had our solo interview. Now I've seen the second one. So excellent stuff. Tom, I'd like to confirm this with you because, you know, as we know, since I interviewed Mike, we talk almost every day. And I asked him a little bit about Puerto Rican women because I'm just fascinated. And he told me that they're very beautiful, but the women's asses there were as big as Yokozuna's. Can you confirm this?
Yeah, that's a big confirmation there, buddy.
Now, hold on.
I come from Wisconsin, so I'm used to that, right? So, but yeah,
I want to interject though. That's not all of them, but yes, that for the most part, that we're going to get a lot of heat for this. Puerto Rican women are beautiful, but some of them have large lower regions, and but I didn't say that about all of them. Let's make that clear. I might have to go back there one day.
Let's please ensure that we don't mean all of them, but. I just wanted to confirm that. That's all.
So I wanted to say something about the Puerto Rico thing. So when we had the belts there, long story short, they owed us some money, and then we went to Japan. And I had told Carlos before we left, I said, "Listen, if we're leaving to Japan, when we come back, we're not bringing the belts back unless you pay us the money you owe us." He was like, "Oh, it'll be here when you got here." Well, we had a feeling it wouldn't be. So when we got back, we had left the belts back in Wisconsin. Remember that, Tom?
Yep.
And so when we got to it was funny because when we got to the building to defend our straps, we came out with no straps, and they lost their mind. Victor Javica and Carlos came to like, "Where's the straps?" And I said, "I told you we're not bringing them unless you pay us." And eventually they had us drop the straps, but we actually had no physical straps. We had to drop the straps, and then we just kept them, and it kind of just got brushed under the carpet. It was really weird, strange.
Right.
Now
fair
they carry
enough.
trophies.
What's that?
Now they carry trophies like the TV.
Well, hey, looking back, I'm glad it happened because we love having our straps. But
I do.
I didn't like the fact that we had to do that, you know. But honestly, I mean, I think they understood that, you know, if you owe us money, what are we supposed to do?
Absolutely. Makes sense to me. And I wanted to take this time to keep talking a little bit about Puerto Rico and making some comparisons. So I wanted to ask Tom first, how did the experience as a hangman there and the run there as a hangman differ for you in comparison to your previous time there as Blackjack Bennett?
Oh.
Well, first of all, when I came in as Blackjack Bennett,
That was after, right?
yeah, I was a mid a mid card guy. You know what I mean? When I came in with Mike, I mean, I'm sure the expectation was for somewhere for us to get a championship run, right? And we did, and we got the belts. But so I think the two different things there is the elevation. You know what I mean? I didn't really need to earn my spot going with Mike, right? I mean, it was, you know what I mean? I mean, so as Blackjack Bennett, I had to work a little harder to try to elevate myself up the card is what I would think would be the difference in that. Yeah.
Right. And again, now with you, Mike, to make that comparison, obviously that the Hangman had been there before, but before was with Frank. How would you compare the two times with the two different partners?
I was actually there when he was Blackjack Bennett. I was as Mighty Kodiak. So I saw, I mean, he was doing mid card, but he was doing great. I mean, Tom can work with anybody. I mean, he's really smooth, and it was cool. He had great interviews. The only reason he didn't get pushed harder, honestly, is I just think that they had other guys that had already been established at that time, you know. But it was cool. We worked on the same cards. We stayed in the same hotels. The only reason Tom had to leave is because his sister unfortunately passed. Was that when she passed, Tom?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
But he was having a good time. Let me tell you something. Tom was having a good time in Puerto Rico. You had your wife was down there, right?
Yep, she came down too.
Yeah,
Yep.
he was. Trust me, Tom was living it up. I mean, anytime I went to the beach, there was Tom doing cartwheels on the sand. You know, he was living life.
It was a good place to be.
Okay, he wasn't doing cartwheels, but he was doing the caterpillar. What's that thing called? The worm. He was doing the worm.
The worm, yeah, definitely.
But also specifically, Mike, you've been there previously with Frank as the Hangman, and now you're there this time with Tom as the Hangman. Is there any differences in business? Is business up? Is business down in comparison? What's it like in comparison?
I'll be honest. I mean, when Tom and I were there, it wasn't as impact. The impact wasn't as much as when Bull and I was there. But we had already, you know, if there's a set of Hangmen there, and then the next time you come back, it's not going to be the same. And we had done the big angle with Invader when it was Bull and I, and now Tom and I come back, and I mean, we both had the straps. But the time with Bull was much more impactful, and the houses were bigger. But Tom and I drew good houses, and we had good matches, and the office loved us. So, I mean, they were both successful runs. It's just the first one, like in most cases, the first time is always going to be the best time, you know?
Right, excellent. So I wanted to see if there was any other stories that you two could tell, just about, you know, just any sort of hijinks, shenanigans, having fun together, you know, while you're there in Puerto Rico. Anything stand out of, you know, just you two and your friendship, I guess I want to bring up, and you two just, you know, having a good time.
I don't know, Tom. I can't think of, you know, the thing is, when we were in Puerto Rico, him and I, like, he had his wife there, and I think I had my girlfriend there at the time too, right?
Yep.
And we didn't go out and party a whole lot. We were just there for business. We'd go work out in the daytime. We never brought our girls to the shows because it was too dangerous, because the fans are so crazy, right, Tom? I mean,
that's true.
You would never, because they would spot them out in a second, these American girls. And it was just it was a tough territory. I mean, the fans didn't play around. If they saw American girls, or they'd know that they were with the guys. And so we never brought our girls there. But we had fun. We'd go to Old San Juan and hang out and do things, and you know, we made the best of it. It was a great time, man. It was like everything else between Tom and I. It was one of special memories, man.
Yeah, because I guess it's helpful that you're both wearing masks, so you're not going to be noticed by the very passionate Puerto Rican fans outside, right?
We wouldn't be recognized as the Hangman necessarily, but at the building, though, if you brought your girlfriends, they would know that there's some American girls there. They have to be dating some of the guys that they probably don't like. But yeah, you're right. Outside the buildings, just like even when Bull and I were there, people didn't really think, they just thought we were tourists pretty much. Yeah. It was, so that was cool.
Bigger tourists.
Right. And in this specific run that you're there in Puerto Rico, I always ask anyone that's worked there about this, but obviously a heel tag team, a lot of heat sometimes. Were there any moments of a little bit of danger, with a typical Texas Hangman post-match beatdown? Any stories of anything dangerous?
Mike, you probably got a few more of them than I do, but
honestly, I think
violent.
When Tom and I were there, it wasn't quite, because we didn't have the heat that Bull and I had.
Okay.
But I will say that, we always were careful getting into the building, getting out of the building, because these fans are rabid. And but I don't think we had any riots or anything like that. The business was kind of on a downturn at the time, but things were still good. But I don't recall any like riots. Tom, do you recall any riots or anything like that? I don't.
I remember when I was down there with was Buddy Landell down there with us, or was that?
Oh shit! Yeah. Buddy did cause one. Yeah. Buddy Landell caused a riot. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
that's right. That's really the only bigger one that I remember.
Buddy Landell. He was a maniac. Him and Eric Embry were like the two, like, most charismatic guys that you could imagine. That anywhere they went, they just drew attention. And he did cause a riot. Yeah.
Scary stuff. So we're getting to the end of the chat there about Puerto Rico. It's time to start getting into some disorderly conduct conversation. I know we've covered this story in both your solo interviews about how it came about, the opportunity came about to go to WCW. And I'd like to relive the debut, I suppose, with you both, which we also did talk about. But I'd like to see you two have a bit of a chin wag about this. I know Steve McMichael isn't doing the best these days, and my thoughts go out to him. But at this time, it was July 28th, 1997, against Chris Benoit, against Steve McMichael. This is the big opportunity here for the Texas Hangmen. I'd like to see you two have a little conversation about this day.
Well, can we talk about how that happened?
Sure.
Okay. So we did our first taping. So what happened is we were in the AWF, which is a league that you're familiar with AWF, right, Carl? I think you said you have that tape set.
Yeah.
So we had done the AWF, and Terry Taylor was one of the agents in the AWF, and he really liked us. Actually, was one of the I think him and Mick Hartz were the commentators for that. And he really liked us. And so when I moved to Florida, I emailed Terry and said, hey, I'm in Florida. Tom will fly himself down here if we need to. Can you bring us in for a WCW taping in Orlando, which was only 90 minutes away? And I didn't think I'd get a response back, but a day later, I got a response. He goes, yeah, you guys are booked for the next one. So Tom flew himself down. And the first taping was me against Hugh Morris, Bill DeMott. And it was a singles match. And I wrestled him. And then after the match, it was a really good match. Not to put myself over, but I'll put myself over. And Arn Anderson called me into one of the trailers. They had trailers all outside the studio where all the staff was. And he goes, man, you're a hell of a worker. He goes, how long have you been working? I told him I've been working a while. And he goes, that was great. He goes, man, I'd like to put you with Steve McMichaels because we need to get him over. And you did such a good job with Hugh. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. So they put me with Steve McMichaels on the next taping. And I somehow got a good match out of him as well. So then Tom, we were in the trailer, and we get a knock on the door, and it's one of the Armstrongs. Was it Scott? It was Scott. And he goes, hey, man, he goes, you're not going to believe this, but you guys are booked for Nitro on Monday. And this was a Saturday. We're like, what? And he goes, yeah, you had such a good match with Steve McMichaels. They want you and your partner to wrestle him and Chris Benoit on Nitro. And he goes, I've never even heard of this where they bring in two guys that are not on contract on Nitro. He goes, I'm telling you right now, guys, if you guys do good, I think you're going to get a contract. So Tom and I are stoked. And we show up at, remember that, dude? We were like, what?
Yes.
So then then we showed up at Nitro on that next Monday.
Right, and
the rest is history.
And wah.
I can't remember who was the one that Steve was trying to hit the tombstone on.
That'd be my fat ass.
Boy, that just got lost.
But here's what happened. Tom, you know this too, dude. You can tell it if you want. But here's what happened. They were supposed to throw us together. And we would hit, and then we would pull out, and then Chris would put the crossface on one of us, and Steve McMichael would do the reverse pile driver on the other one.
Correct.
But here's the problem. When they threw us into the corners, the referee says, go home. Steve McMichael panics, and he goes to throw us. As he goes to throw us together, instead of throwing us together, he pulls me back into him and starts trying to do the pile drive. Well, I'm 300 pounds, and he's trying to get me into a move I wasn't expecting. So when he goes to pick me up, we start doing this ballerina dance all around the ring. Remember, Tom?
Yeah, the ref gets caught behind you guys in the corner.
God, he didn't break my neck, and he drops me. And then we come back, and then, of course, we saw it in Terry's face when he was there. He kind of looked like disappointed because he wanted us to get a job. I honestly feel, and Tom, don't you think this, had we nailed that finish, which was not our fault, if we had nailed that finish, I feel we would have got a contract right then and there because they were high on us.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we could have probably
done
a lot more.
We would have actually been an established tag team. It was just one of those things where we, it wasn't. Michael was green, but damn it, if he hadn't done that and we just threw us together and we called off, I feel like we would have got a contract and our whole lives would have been different.
Well, because to be honest with you, if you don't mind me interjecting, the match was real good up to then.
It was great up until that minute. Yeah,
it really was. It was a great match up until then. But the rule in the business is you don't nail the finish, right? It sucks. So,
but that wasn't on us. That wasn't on us. But I'm not gonna. I mean, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But bottom line is, it wasn't our fault that happened. He should have threw us together like we were supposed to, and not just grab me and freaked out and tried to grab me in a pile driver. It is what it is.
Yes, sir. Yep.
It might have cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. Who knows? or maybe we would have just been jabrones either way. Who knows?
Right.
As we had talked about in again, the solo interviews, you two eventually become Disorderly Conduct, a name to this day I still adore. After all these years in a hood together, now we're seeing those gorgeous faces, your money makers, they're exposed. Tom, I'm going to ask you first. Were you happy with the change?
I was. You got to remember at that time, a lot of the Mexican guys were coming in, right? And they all had hoods on and that. And Mike, I think you can, right? I think that's really what had them have us take our hoods off, to be honest with you. I don't know, Mike, is that you feeling the same way on that?
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think that's one of the reasons, yeah.
So
I think
was
that
looking faces.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you see us in the back all the time and they're like, God, these guys are gorgeous. Okay. But anyways, I think that he's got a good point. It was because the Mexicans were all coming in with the masks on. And I also think the Texas Hangmen, at that point, that name, with all the be careful about what you say, I think that name was starting to be a little controversial, and that's why they called us, even when we did masks after that, they called us the Texas Outlaws. The Hangman was no longer appropriate because, today's society, everything. You got to be careful about anything. And the Hangman were never meant to be anything racial or anything else. It was executioner style Hangman, which would hang anybody. But anyways, I think that was a good point of it. And I think that they just wanted to double duty us. We were so good as workers not to put ourselves over, but here we are again. I feel that they just saw that we were so good that they wanted to use us as much as they could. And so Terry came up to us and said, listen, come up with some names, present them to me, and I'll pick out which one I like. And Disorderly Conduct is the one he picked out.
Very nice. And eventually, you both signed contracts with WCW. Before that was the nightly deal. Mike, how did the signing of contracts finally happen?
It was pretty weird. Tom can interject on this too.
Sure.
We are nightly, and Terry Taylor and Jimmy Hart were always pushing for us to get a deal. So they were pretty much the only two guys that pushed for us. And thank you for that. And it was weird. We had a booking for a guy named Jay Trout. Where was that Tom? Where was that in Illinois? Was it? Do you remember what city?
It was Southern Illinois or Northern Indiana, one of them two, yeah.
So we had a booking for an independent guy who paid us really well, and it was against the Bushwhackers in the main event. And out of the blue, we get a call from WCW saying, we've got you booked on Thursday Thunder this week. And we had this booking coming up. And I'm like, well, we already have a booking coming up. And they're like, well, we need you there. We already sent the stuff into production. And I'm like, well, okay, but we're not under contract and we have rights to do other stuff. Not to be rude, but we're not going to cancel this booking because you just called us out of the blue. And they're like, all right, let's talk. We'll talk to production. We'll get back to you. I get a call 2 hours later and like, listen, you need to show up. And if you do, it's going to be worth your while. Trust me on that. And I'm like, wow. Remember, Tom? So I call you up and I'm like, dude, I go, I don't know what this means, but it sounds like maybe they're going to give us a contract or something. But to me, it seems so stupid because we were wrestling Kurt Hennig and was it Barry Windham? It was the Rap is Crap deal, that whole deal with Rap is Crap thing and all that. Was it Kurt and Barry or was it Kurt and Virgil? Or who was it? Do you remember?
I don't. No,
okay. It was the Rap is Crap deal. Oh, maybe it was Bobby Duncombe Jr. It was Bobby Duncombe Jr.
I think.
But anyways, yeah.
So bottom line is it was Duncombe Jr. and Kurt Hennig in.
So we're thinking, what does it matter? Couldn't you just switch production out and put 2 other guys in there? But thank God they didn't think that. They're like, no, we have to have you guys. Okay, they have to have disorderly conduct. So we called the promoter up and we're like, listen, this is what they told us. And I think we're going to get a contract. And Jay Trout was so cool. He goes, listen, guys, just go. We'll find another. And I end up having 2 of my students go there to wrestle Bushwhackers. And we showed up and we got contracts. It was great.
That is
like we were in the middle of an angle or anything with these guys or anything.
Yeah.
Sense, right?
Thank God we had a booking that same night because things might have been different. But that paid a lot of bills after that.
Yep, right on.
Very happy to hear about that. And there's another thing that, Mike, you mentioned this to me yesterday when we were chatting. And I'd like to just explain this as something that a lot of fans might not know about WCW at the time. You had to call up to find out where and when you were booked and sit on the phone and find out about what was going on. How did that work?
Remember that, Tom? So
and I remember
I might have been the one who called mostly, but basically what it was is every Sunday night you'd have to call a hotline and then you'd have to listen for your names for the week, whether it be the Monday show, the Thursday show, or the Saturday show. And there'd be this like automated message and it would say like, it was alphabetical and it would say all the names of the wrestlers that were going to be there. And eventually it would say Mean Mike or Tough Tom. So you'd have to listen to this 8-minute audio to find out if you were booked for that week. And then if you heard Mean Mike and Tough Tom, then you knew you were getting a plane ticket the next day and then you'd fly to wherever. So yeah, it was really strange the way they did it. But I guess if you have so many guys, how else are you going to do it? You've got like 80 guys. But yeah, we'd have to, every Sunday night, we'd have to call and see if we were booked for that week. And it would be this long 8-minute phone message. And you just have to wait for your alphabetical if it was Mean Mike or Tough Tom. It's crazy.
Interesting. And more interesting stuff, like just these little things that happen behind the scenes. Tom, I want to ask you a little bit about the WCW drug testing and how that worked. And then Mike, you can chime in as well with your memories of this.
I did tell them what would happen, Tom.
They had definitely had drug testing protocol in place. I don't know what.
All right, I'll interject.
Clean.
Tom and I did drug testing, and the funny thing is why would you drug test us for steroids? It wasn't about regular drugs. It was about steroids.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why would you test us when we didn't look like we ever took steroids for the most part compared to like these jacked guys? But it ended up where when they tested us, I brought some. I knew I was taking steroids, but I wasn't super jacked. But I brought some fake urine and I chickened out at the last second, and I just ended up peeing, and I got caught. And my partner, not saying he had fake urine, but he passed the test, and I didn't. And then I had to take it again, but the next time I was off steroids, and I was fine. But yeah, it was so weird. Like out of all the guys you're going to test disorderly conduct. Like you're not going to test all these jacked up guys, really?
That was probably on purpose, right? I mean,
obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
You had to test a certain amount of guys a month, and let's just test. I'm sure they were shocked when I failed. They were like, "What? Jeez, what kind of steroids is this guy taking? He better get some better steroids."
Awesome. And one thing, look, as you both know, was a big fan of you both. And one thing that frustrated me so much as a fan would be seeing teams like Barry Darsow and John Nord beat you, Bobby Eaton and hard work Bobby Walker, the pit crew, Dale Torborg and Chad Fortune, Vincent and Kendall Windham, Brad Armstrong and Swole from the No Limit Soldiers. These teams that were either short-lived or didn't even team together permanently at all, picking up wins over you both. Did it get frustrating? Let's start with Tom, and then we can go to Mike. You can both just complain with me. That must have been frustrating.
Yeah, of course, it was frustrating. But I think the reason them kind of things happened is because we weren't in no angles. We weren't, when Nitro and Thunder and everything was coming, you know what? Nothing else meant anything there anyway, to be honest with you. I mean, it was NWO, NWO, NWO. So I think that's really why those let's say nonsense matches even happened, right? Because it just didn't matter at that point in my eyes. It was just all about, well, you got the poster right behind you. I can see, Carl. Right? It was huge, right? It was, and it immersed everything else, and so I think it just didn't matter. I think that's how the booking crew looked at. Who gives a just throw them in there. We got an NWO segment after that, or whatever the case.
What about you, Mike? I mean, come on. And so these guys are great wrestlers. I love Barry Darsow. I think Bobby Eaton's one of the greatest workers.
One of the greatest.
But him and Bobby Walker barely were a team, maybe for like 2 weeks. Darsow and John Nord barely a team. The pit crew, Dale Torborg and Chad Fortune, I think then he had 3 matches. It's frustrating for me as a fan. Mike, was it frustrating for you?
No, I agree. It was frustrating. But guys like 3 Count we'd lose to, all these small teams and all that. I mean, Kid Romeo was a great guy. These guys were all great workers, but it was frustrating for us because we weren't getting a shot. But truth be told, we were trained by Rocky Stone, who taught us, keep your mouth shut and just do your job. And so it's one of my biggest regrets in wrestling. Had we spoke up a little bit, there was many times, Tom, you remember this, there are many times Kevin Sullivan would be near us, or Kevin Nash when these guys were booking. We could have just walked over to them and said, "Hey, we got this idea, or could you maybe think about this?" But we never did, not even one time. So that's on us. It's on us, Tom. We didn't do it, and we should have, but we were taught to just shut our mouths and do our job. And unfortunately, the guy we were taught from was a guy who was pretty much a carpenter or a job guy for the most part. He had done some territory stuff, but bottom line is he was in that same mold. And unfortunately, that's what we became. We just shut our mouths, and we should have gone to Kevin Sullivan or Kevin Nash and said, "Hey, we never presented even one idea to these guys." So that's on us. So we got kind of, I guess, what we deserved, even though we were really good workers. I mean, speak up.
Yeah, right.
No, it's a great point. It's a great point because when I spoke to Lenny Lane about his time in WCW, they didn't do much with him for a long time. But then the reason something happened was because he took a chance. He showed Kevin an idea that he had. You missed,
and he did
100%
speak
of the
up.
shots
He did
you
speak
don't
up.
take.
Yes.
Exactly. And then something happened for him, and then him and Lodi were now on Nitro every single week. So
that was on us. That was on us.
It rings true.
It's a regret, but you know what? Looking back, we should have done it differently. But when you're conditioned from day one in the business to do this, 20 years later, you should logically think differently. But that's just the way we were just happy to be there.
Yeah, right. Yep.
It sucks. We should have done. We could have suggested things, and maybe it would have changed things. But oh well.
It was all good, man.
It was still great. It was still great. We had a great time, and we had a great career. And would we like to change things? Yeah, but at the same time, man, lifetime of memories. It was great.
Absolutely. And another thing I wanted to bring up was the times that you guys worked with the Armstrongs, because I believe from my research, there's 5 times that you guys worked with them. You guys got 2 wins over them. So there we go. We're getting some wins there with the Armstrongs, but very good competitive matches with them. Would you guys, when you look back on your time in WCW, think to those matches as some of your favorites?
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, for me, absolutely. These guys were, man, right? I mean, come from a wrestling family, just smooth as silk. And I'm talking about all 3 or 4 of them, right? I mean, each one of them, fabulous guys out of the ring, right? Yep. I mean, just all the way around, them guys were aces in my book. Mike, what are you thinking?
Absolutely, dude. Those guys are class acts. Just great guys. Steve, I mean, all of them. Every one of them was just great. And the matches we had with the Armstrongs were some of our favorite matches. The difference with them and some of the other guys is they would take the time to sit down and really structure out a match and try to present a good product. Unfortunately, when you worked with some other guys, they didn't feel that way. They just want to get out there and do their thing. But yeah, they were great. And also wrestling Brad on that Nitro with Swell was an honor, because let me tell you something. That guy is one of the best in the business, underrated, just an amazing talent, and a cool dude too. Armstrongs are the best.
I agree 100%.
Very cool. And I know I told you about this, Mike, but Tom, I interviewed Swole, sometime earlier this year. And he did want to pass on that he wanted to thank you both for what you did for him, working with him back then, because he knew that he was green as goose shit. But he recognized you both.
But he was a cool dude. He was a cool dude, and he did the best he could for what he was. He was thrown into a position that, I mean, why wouldn't you take it, even if you were green?
Yeah, money talks, that's for sure. Moving forward now, talking about being on the road, Mike, you mentioned this to me about a 3-day loop. It was like the first proper loop that you guys were on, which included working at the Cow Palace, which is obviously another great venue. Please tell me about this time in Disorderly Conduct's career in WCW.
Yeah, so we got a call that they wanted us to do a loop. I thought it was the Nasty Boys one of the Nasty Boys was hurt, but it ended up being with me and Tom against Ming and Barbie, and it was supposed to be Reno, Vegas, and Los Angeles. And we did these loops. Oh, no, San Francisco. It was San Francisco. And so bottom line, when we went to San Francisco, for whatever reason, Ming says, hey, you guys want to come out and party with me? And we're like, yeah.
Him and Barbie, yeah.
Hell yeah. So we go out with those two, and we didn't know that Ming is literally looked like as a king in San Francisco, because there's a big Samoan and Tongan population there. So everywhere we went, everyone referred to him as king. And we were given carte blanche everywhere. It was amazing. And it was a really cool experience. I mean, you couldn't even believe it. And then one of the mornings, remember this time? This is embarrassing. We're at the gym, and Barbie's there, and we're playing basketball. And Barbie goes, hey, he always called us Chris. I don't know why he called us both Chris. Even though that wasn't a name, he'd always go, Chris, you want to play this? It was so weird. Remember that time?
Yeah.
So he asked us if we want to play basketball against him. 2-on-1. And we're like, yeah, that sounds good. I mean, how can we not beat this big bastard 2-1? He ends up beating us like 10-2. Remember that, Tom? And we're good athletes.
I do.
Who would guess that big bastard could play basketball so good?
Yeah, he's a good
Both
athlete.
of us. How does that happen?
I'll tell you this. I don't know how that happens, but that's sort of how our whole career went, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point.
I want to elaborate a little on I guess when they said, hey, you want to go out with us, and we said, yeah, sure, we'll go out there. So we go out there to some bars, right? We're getting treated really well, better than we've ever been, so
VIP.
Yeah, Ming and Barbie are so over, and what I called it like Little Samoa, right? Because I mean the neighborhoods they took us to were filled with Samoans. The bars there was
no Americans except for Tom and I.
Right.
So we go there after a show, right? So we're talking 11 midnight, something like that. These women that are there and that run home to grab their kids out of bed and stuff so they can see Ming and Barbarian.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's how over. I mean, the next thing you know, this bar is filled with a whole bunch of little tots running around. And
that's true.
Talking to Ming and Barbie. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was so cool. That was an amazing experience. And the thing about it is we did that 3-day loop, and on San Francisco, Eric Bischoff, for whatever reason, was there at the show, our boss. Okay. Yeah. So he's watching the match with us, and he went up to Arn. Now, I didn't know this until Arn called me back after the match and goes, "You're not going to believe this." And I'm like, "What happened?" And he goes, Eric Bischoff comes up to me and says, "Man, this team, this disorderly conduct, they're pretty good hands. Who are these guys?" And Arn says, "Well, they're guys that you signed to a contract 2 years ago, and they've been with the company 4 years." And he goes, "Oh, I guess I got an eye for talent." He didn't even know who the hell we were, and we'd been in the company for 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy.
That just shows you that guy signed a lot of contracts that he didn't look at. Thank God.
Yeah, right.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Excellent, and that's such a great story. And we've covered the exit of disorderly conduct from WCW in your solo interviews, which we'll be promoting right at the end of this interview when it goes out on YouTube. So all of you should check that out. I don't mean to skim through things, but when it's things we've already kind of gone into detail on, I don't want to have you guys have to repeat yourselves, but you guys do exit from WCW. You're used to seeing one another so often, and then you don't. So how did that make you both feel? And we can start with you, Tom.
When that happened, actually, we did have a tryout with WWE.
Against the Dubs.
Sergeant Slaughter got us a tryout. So we went, I think really what we kept wondering what was next. We were hoping, I'm sure there was something next, but we had like I say, a dark match with WWE, and really never went anywhere after that. And that was pretty much, as far as I went, was pretty much my retirement at that point. You're used to making some okay money, right? Now you got to think about going to get a regular job, and I had a wife, I had a child on the way at that point, and so just you got to shift gears, right? Just like in life, sometimes you got to shift gears, and at least that's the way I looked at it, and thank God that me and Mike had different avenues to go down, and weren't, some of the boys, they get out of the business, and to be honest with you, it's just a shit show after that for them,
because they can never move on.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a very interesting time in your lives, Mike. How did you feel? You have this run in WCW. You have this tryout match, which is 18th of September 2000 with the Dups. How did How did you feel? You used to being with your friend, Tough Tom, all the time. And now, it's you got to, I guess, figure out where to go next.
It was strange because, you're used to being around the guy every month, hanging out with him and doing things. And all of a sudden now we're just kind of floating in limbo. But we had to try out for the WWE against the Dubs, and we had a good match, but we just didn't get hired. And after that, it was a little strange. I still did some Kodiak stuff, some Hangman stuff. So we still did some indie stuff and did a lot. But yeah, it was an adjustment. It was a different time. But for both of us, we were guys who even during our earlier career always had jobs to supplement our income from wrestling until we got the WCW full-time gig. So unlike a lot of wrestlers, we were accustomed to actually having to work, whereas a lot of wrestlers, for whatever reason, don't want to work and they just want to hang on to this thing, and then they're starving and struggling. And we weren't like that. And today, Tom's got a bar, SBG, in Sheboygan, which is killing it, right, Tom?
Yeah, things things came around real good after COVID, and we're back to
But even before COVID, though, he's got a bar and grill that kills it, and the bar is super successful. He's got rental properties. He's killing it. His boy Jed is playing sports. He's bigger than Tom. Probably more of a stud than Tom is, which is hard to do.
Better looking.
He is better looking.
Yeah, better looking.
But I've got a successful appraisal business that's been killing it every year, knock on wood, for years and years and years. So we both evolved and found something else to do after it. Do we miss wrestling? I do. I'm sure Tom does. But we're older now. We've accepted it is what it is. And we're thankful we're not in the position a lot of wrestlers are, where they still try to hold on to going to do all these bookings and all that, and surviving on people's autographs. And I don't want to do that. Not knocking those guys, but I don't want to do that. But we had a good run, and it was, I don't miss wrestling anymore because I'm too old to do it. Do you miss wrestling anymore, Tom?
No, I'm way over it. Sometimes, I look at it as life's in chapters, right? That was a chapter. Was it a great chapter? Yes. Was it a way up there chapter? Absolutely. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I look back on it, and I'm blessed. I was blessed to run into Mike, and I'm just blessed in life, bro, to be honest with you. I got a strong baby, not a baby boy anymore. He's going to be 16 years old. He's playing basketball. He's playing football.
Jet's a stud.
I got to coach him this year at the high school level. So dude, I'm blessed, right? So that's
excellent to hear. It sounds like it's a chip off the old block. So another thing I want to ask about, because Mike had mentioned this to me as well. I was trying to find this on the WWE Network. I can't find it. But there is a segment where Eddie Guerrero in WWF was trying to get into the Playboy Mansion. I found one segment with two other guys that didn't let him in, but I know that there was this whole thing where he was trying to get in there to talk to Hefner to make sure that China's spread didn't come out.
That was during the Dubs tryout the next day, or that same day. Go ahead, Tom. Tell them what happened.
No, go ahead. I just know it was wasn't it the Chicago Playboy?
The Playboy, yeah.
Playboy
so
Club,
it was at the Playboy Mansion in Chicago, because I guess there's different ones. And we were like, since you're here, do you guys want to do this segment where you guys are like security for the Playboy Mansion, not wanting to let Eddie in because he wants to stop the production of China and her Playboy thing?
Yep.
And we're like, well, if you're going to pay us, sure. So we go to the Playboy Mansion. Remember, we got those stupid campy button downs that had all the Playboy covers on it. They give us these Playboy cover things, and we go to the Chicago. It's in Chicago, and the deal is that Eddie shows up, and then he confronts us, and we're both standing there like side by side, and he's like, "I got to get in there. I want to stop this. I don't want China to be nude in front of everybody." And we're like, "Remember, Tom? You're like, bro, you can't get in there. And we're like, no, you're not. So he comes running. It's campy. He comes running in, and we grab his arms, and he's spinning his legs like the thing. And then we drag him out of there. And it was on because I actually saw it on WB. I can't believe you didn't find it because your research is amazing. But yeah, it was really campy, but it was so funny.
Right. Yeah. Because now that I've got the date of when this happened, I'm sure I'll be able to locate it at some point. I think that the segment that I saw was probably from a different week. I tried finding it, and that was what I found earlier today. So there's probably another one somewhere. I will find it, and we will see it all.
But the funny thing is like, working with Eddie obviously was great. I mean, the guy's so cool,
fabulous.
And the funny thing is that Eddie, and remember Tom when we worked Eddie and Ray when I got my teeth knocked out?
Yep.
So Eddie and Ray, probably a year earlier, worked Tom and I. Yep. And for whatever reason, Ray decided to slide over and give me a forearm, and he knocked my teeth loose, 5 teeth loose. And when I tagged in, Eddie goes, "What's wrong?" And I go, "My teeth are ready to fall out." And he goes, "Oh my God." So we go into the finish. And then the next day, my good partner, we go to when I got back, the doctor at the building says, "There's no saving those teeth." And so Tom and I had to go to the dentist the next day, and Tom sat there for 7 hours.
Yeah,
remember that? And they
they've said, "Well, you guys got to fly to Atlanta tomorrow morning because that's where our dentist is." So now we're flying to Atlanta, right?
And then he sat there, and they grinded my teeth down, and they put the partials in. And then I didn't even have my permanents yet. And the next day we had to work Billy Kidman and Rey Mysterio on Thunder. And I had just a fake partial in, but we made it through the match. Remember that?
Tell you this. Yeah, I gotta tell you this. So we're I'm in the dentist's office with him, right? And he's in the chair, and
they're grinding me down.
Really nice reception. "Oh, baby, don't worry. We're gonna give you a nice new grill, and we're gonna take care of it." So we're sitting there, and I'm talking with her and the doctor, and I'm right in the same room. So for some reason, the dentist and the lady go out, and all of a sudden Mike looks over at me and gives me a big grin. He goes, "Hey, how's it look?" And at this point, they have all his teeth filed to a point to get ready to put the stuff on. And what do you say to the guy? I go, "Oh yeah, man, you look good, brother. Don't worry."
We took a picture of it. I pretty much looked like Dracula. I had these big fangs and nothing. Yeah, I was just gross. But thank God I got thank you WCW, because you gave me nice brand new teeth.
Right on.
$5,000 later, they paid for it. It was great. Yeah.
That
maybe start thinking of Ray, right? Thank Ray.
Yeah, thank you, Ray.
Awesome stuff. One other thing I wanted to ask about, because I don't think I asked you both about this when I had you both on before, but working with Demolition in 2011 and 2012. I just wanted to hear about that experience, at this stage in your career, as it's winding down.
Tom, that was for Dave Hero.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, night off all the time. Both them guys are fabulous guys. Bill and Barry are super guys, really super guys. Yeah, always a night off, in my opinion. Right? I mean, it was easy, very easy.
Yeah. So we worked them two years in a row for Dave Hero, who puts on the biggest shows. Actually, tonight is his big Blizzard Brawl, and he's got a stock crowd a card. He's great. But anyways, we worked those guys, and it was always easy working with those guys. Now to me, Bill was always snugger than Barry. Yeah, and I had worked with Bill when he was the Masked Superstar, and he was freaking snug. And then I worked with both of them in WWE when I was a jobber, and they were both snug. But Bill was always more snug than Barry was. But I got an interesting story about Barry that I don't know if you want to hear. So Barry, his son Dakota Darso tried out for WWE and was he was actually on a developmental deal. He moved to Clearwater, and him and I got to know each other, and I got him hired at Shepherd's, which was a beach resort that I used to bounce at when I was a bouncer. And then he ended up meeting his wife there, and then they have kids. So if not for me, Barry would not be a grandpa, because I was the one who introduced Dakota to Shepherd's, who he met his wife. She was a bartender, and then they had kids. So that was kind of, and then Barry, whenever we'd see each other afterwards, we'd always joke about that I kind of caused that. But both those guys, Tom, you'll say, they were just the coolest dudes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Demolition they were cool dudes, man. They were very cool dudes.
I agree.
Yep, I'm still hoping for them to get that Hall of Fame induction. But
they should.
I still haven't had it. Hopefully.
I don't think that's going to happen because of the whole contract thing, right? Right, Carl?
Yeah, I think there's like we're a part of a lawsuit, right? Which is why. That's maybe when Triple H is now, because he's in charge.
If Coco Beware is in Hall of Fame and Demolition's not, there's a problem.
Hey, how about this? Just remember this, fellas. Never say never in pro wrestling.
True.
Yeah, I know exactly what Tom's saying there. Disorderly conduct the Texas Hangmen for the Hall of Fame. I'm saying it right now.
that would be never say. That would be never say never.
Yeah, I think that would be a safe one, right?
Yeah. Jesus.
So we're getting to the tail end here, guys, and there's some other questions that I had here. And Tom, I want to ask you this one first. What would you say is the biggest lesson that you learned from Mike over the years that you can share?
Great question.
Yeah, that is a tough one.
I can't wait to hear this.
As far as the business goes, he really taught me the ins and outs, how to take care of your gimmick, how to get over. So I didn't know a lot of those things before I became a Texas Hangman. And I just wanted to just go back just a little bit. We were talking about Puerto Rico before. I just want to remind everybody how hard the rings really were over there. And
fuck yeah.
For me, that was my real first wrestling every day, right? So that was really, in my eyes, where I cut my teeth. So anyway, Mike's really taught me everything about the wrestling business, and man, can't thank him enough. You know what I mean? You hear about a lot of tag teams that don't get along, or don't travel together or something. I'll be honest, I couldn't imagine going on this ride without Mike by my side, right? So just, man, once again, blessed. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's cool.
And Mike, throwing it over to you, is there a lesson that you learned from working with Tom over the years?
I wouldn't say a lesson I learned, but I did feel that every time you team with a new partner, it's a different experience. Tom was just a sweet guy who wanted to learn, and he worked hard. He always worked hard. So I mean, every partner you have is different. I wouldn't say it was a lesson learned, but I can tell you right now, Tom he earned his spot. Trust me, 100%. He earned his spot, and I never regretted picking Tom. And honestly, if it wasn't for Tom and I being together, we wouldn't have had a contract for WCW, and that contract actually changed our lives.
Yeah, right, I mean, right on.
Right? The money we made from that wasn't astonishing, but it was good enough to where it changed our lives. And I thank you, Tom. It was great.
Brother, you know how I feel about you, right?
Yeah.
Awesome stuff, guys. Another question that I had right here at the tail end. Such a long time together, being on television around the world together. To your fans, to the people that you work with, I'll start with you, Mike. How do you hope that you and Tom disorderly conduct the Texas Hangman? How do you hope to be remembered?
Oh, geez. That's a tough one, dude, because I'll be honest with you. We're very aware that we were just glorified enhancement talent. But we also had done territories as the Texas Hangmen, and I don't know. That's a tough question to answer. I think that I get about probably 3 or 4 times a year I get messages or mail from fans wanting autographs, and I think that people still appreciate. Tom.
Yep.
People still appreciate us, and I value that. But I don't think that I want us to be remembered for anything certain. I mean, we know where we were on the food chain, but at the same time, for us personally, man, we lived a dream, dude. We got to travel the world. We went to Japan and we traveled all over the United States, and we were at WCW and we were in Puerto Rico. We lived the dream. It may not have been the perfect dream, but it damn sure was a freaking good dream. And 2 guys from Wisconsin, never would have made it out of there otherwise. We're super blessed, man. We are super blessed. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, there's a couple guys that were real involved in getting to us to where Mike and myself got to, and I'm sure we've said it before, but man, Jimmy Hart, Terry Taylor.
Yes.
Without guys like that, you wouldn't even be sitting here talking to us today. So I need to thank guys like that. Of course, I got to thank the fans, and not to make anything light of this, but I think me and Mike are going to be remembered for a lot more than just pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Classy answer. I like it. And
can I say one more thing before that?
Sure. Yeah.
I would also want to thank, just for me, I'd want to thank Herman Schaefer and Jake the Milkman Milliman and Rocky Stone for the training they gave me for free when they didn't have to. And for Tom, Rocky Stone also trained him.
Yeah, absolutely.
These guys, these pioneers that took the time to train guys like us, I mean, you can't say enough about them, and thank you, because they gave us careers that we never would have had otherwise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's some great stuff to hear. I really appreciate you both sharing all that with me. And usually at this part of the interview, I have a segment where I find out about people's favorite things. But you see, the thing here is I've had you both on the show before, so you've already answered these questions. So I came up with a bunch of other ones, but these are kind of more about to do more as you two as a tag team, and some of your favorite things, and maybe some of your least favorite things. But let's go one after another. We can start with Michael, start with Tom. Either way, if you could both pick, each, is there a particular match that you remember that will be your favorite match that you two got to work together as a tag team in? We can start with.
Go ahead, Tom.
One of mine, for some reason, I'd have to go. It was just a Saturday night match, but it was Billy Kidman, Rey Mysterio match. I think, man, we really stepped it up in that match. We were flying, we were doing great things, and it flowed so nicely, and so on that level, anyway, yeah, that would probably be one of my funnest anyway. You know what I mean?
Excellent. And you, Mike?
Honestly, the one he picked was by far one of the top ones. I mean, that was one of our best matches. I think in Puerto Rico we had some really good matches too, though. But I can't think of any specific ones. But I think what Tom picked that's by far in the top 3. Yeah.
Excellent. And the next one was, maybe you both have the same answer or a separate answer for this favorite tag team that you guys worked against over the years.
Oh.
Go ahead, Mike.
Tom? Go ahead, Tom.
Boy, that's a tough one too. Man.
So many, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, years and years and years. I mean, you're talking like 12 years of tag teams.
Yeah.
I I can tell you one I didn't enjoy too much was the Road Warriors. How's that? I got my ass.
Well, that was before me, though. That was before me. That was before me. And I didn't enjoy that either. It's funny, Carl, because we both wrestled the Road Warriors when we were jobbers before we became who we were. And yeah, those were the worst. Did you enjoy the Steiners? I didn't enjoy the Steiners. It's disorderly conduct.
No, they're snug too. Nice guys.
They were rough.
Yeah.
Do you remember, Tom, where when we wrestled them on Nitro and he tried to give you his finish?
He couldn't get me up,
Freaking head. I don't know if it's Tom's head's too big or his crotch is too small, but Tom's head got caught in his tights. And when they went to do that finish, it just didn't. Remember that? It didn't work.
Yeah,
right.
Well, first of all, he couldn't get me up. Right, he couldn't get me up, and he couldn't. Now he finally gets me up, and it was just a shit show, right? And anyway, the next day we have him again at Saturday for Saturday night, and it went off.
But he did say, "Get your ass up this next time."
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah.
What about
a lot of good matches, Carl? Really, all of them. I my whole career is just, a highlight to me, really. So,
yeah,
they were all good.
That's great.
And Mike, would you have a favorite tag team or a tag team that you feel like disorderly conduct worked the best against, or even just when you guys were there?
That's a really good question. When I look back, it's going to sound funny, but I think the Armstrongs or the Villanos, because these guys, we had actual matches with. When you're a TV guy who's doing enhancement and you're putting people over, but when you get a team like the Villanos or the Armstrongs, where it's back and forth, those matches were great. And sometimes we won, sometimes they won. I love those matches. And the Villanos were such good guys, like the Armstrongs. I would say those were my favorite matches because those guys were great. One of my least favorite matches was when we wrestled Knobs and Finley in a street fight. Remember that, Tom?
Yes. Yes.
And the finish was I had to take a splash off the second rope from Knobs with a garbage can. like he needed anything else, really.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. But it turned out okay. But yeah, that was not fun.
Excellent. We haven't got too many more here, but is there a team that you wish that you could have worked with, in a competitive match?
Tom?
In a competitive match?
Yeah.
A real competitive match. I guess I wouldn't mind doing a Steiner deal if it would have been,
competitive.
Competitive, yeah. That probably I would have got off on that probably, yeah.
How about you, Mike?
To be honest with you, it's a tough call because when you're in a situation where you're in that not jobber, but enhancement role, it's tough to think about that. There's so many teams nowadays I would love to work with if they were available, but at that time in WCW, I don't think there was any that I regretted because we worked so many. They used us. Right. I mean, Carl, honestly, there were so many times that we'd be booked on WCW tapings where they would use us as both. So we would show up at the arena. We'd have to carry both our sets of gear, which was huge. And then we'd wrestle as the Texas Hangmen and as disorderly conduct in the same taping. So we were working everybody all the time. They were getting their contract use out of us. Trust me.
Yeah, we earned it.
We earned it. Shit. We'd have to change our boots, our tights, everything. That was a lot of work in one night.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, you also got to change the style of your work, right? So
yeah.
If you become mechanical out there and they wouldn't be able to do that, right? So you got to change your style and everything, right? If you're going to keep up the facade, right?
And honestly, every night that we worked Disorderly and Texas Hangman in WCW, not one time did I ever hear people say this is that group. Like nobody ever figured it out. And that's a testament to us because we'd come out with these entire different outfits and nobody ever figured it out literally in the same night that we heard.
And keep in mind that the internet wasn't as strong as it is now either back then or anything either. You know what I mean? So like now you instantly hear it, right?
Point, yeah. That's a good point.
No, because that is a great point because I remember when I watched those shows, it only dawned on me a long time afterward when I started doing some research for these interviews that you two actually both teams. I had no idea until maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. So yeah, you fooled me as well. So and also I wanted to say one team would have liked to see you two work with would have been the Dudley Boys. I think that would have been.
Oh, that would have been great.
That would have been a good one, I think. So again, we're very close to the end here. 2 more to go here. Do you guys have any pet peeves about one another?
Tom?
Oh, I'll start this one.
You be gentle.
Not really. I'm going to be honest.
Fucking guy.
From everybody you talk to, everybody that you talk to, like I say, when you're out on the road, me and Mike really pretty much always got along. I mean, you're going to have a tiff here or there or something, right? But I mean, as far as being on the road with somebody, I thought we handled it well. I mean, very well. Like Mike said earlier, it ain't like we were out, taking pills and drinking every night. I mean, did we go out and have some cocktails? Absolutely. But, we didn't let all these other outside forces come into our deal, right? And I don't know, maybe that's the way we grew up in the Midwest or whatever the case is. So I'll be honest, nothing just comes into my head and goes, man, I always hated that about that son of a bitch,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad about that. Jesus.
What about you, Mike? Any pet peeves about Tom?
Yeah, no, I honestly, I appreciate that he says that. I think the only difference that we had is that he was married. I was single. So I wanted to go out and chase puss. He didn't really want to do that, but he'd go out to support me as a friend. So we'd go out to these places and all that. And the only fight I ever remember us having was in Vegas. We were there for 2 days for a WCW thing. And I wanted to go out the second night, but we partied hard the first night. And Tom was like, I'm good, dude. And I'm like, no, let's do this. And we got in a fight. But honestly, it was just because I was obsessed with chasing puss. And he was not, because I was single. But honestly, besides that, man, we had the most amazing tag team, and he was the greatest partner, and it was cool. And shit, man, we just had good times and great memories.
Right on.
Brilliant. And there's one final one here. It's one final opportunity to blow smoke up each other's asses.
I love smoke up my ass.
I want to know what each other's best quality is. Well, Tom, what do you think is Mike's best quality?
Oh shit.
As far as wrestling or as a human being?
As a human being.
Okay, well, let me think on that.
Be careful,
actually, I
Tom.
want to say something.
Nice.
Actually, I want to say something first of all about the wrestling and that. He always took care of the bookings. He always stayed organized. He always did that. And as far as a human being, man, he's a great guy. He's got a big heart. Loves to help people out, as you know, Carl, as I know, right, firsthand. And to be honest with you, the time that we spent together on the road, we pretty much became like brothers, right? Yeah, you got to argue, you got to tiff, whatever, right? Eventually we look at each other, we go, hey, we're over it. Let's move on, right? And have a good time. And that's what we really did. I would say 98% of the time I was with Mike, we always had a good time.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Wonderful. And Mike, what would you say is Tom's best quality?
Oof. man.
Yeah, it's you got to dig deep for that one.
I'm gonna have to dig super deep for this. No. The thing with Tom is he's a hard worker. He's a Sheboygan, Midwest, hard-working dude, whether it be at his job non-wrestling or his job wrestling. And this guy never did less than 110%. He always busted his ass. He always was there for anything we needed. And I can tell you, honestly, man, I never, ever felt to myself, not even one time, that it was a mistake that I chose Tom, because he was just a great partner.
Well, that's great to hear, guys, and I'm feeling it here as well. The bond that you two have had, there's a reason why you two were a team together, and I want to take this time to thank you both, not only for the previous two occasions where I had the chance to interview you each, but to take the time again to have a chat with you both together. It means a lot to me because obviously Mike and I have become really good friends since our interview, and Mike, you've helped me so much in helping me locate other people for interviews. Really? Tom was one of them, and even Tom Rocky Stone was another one of them. I could list off so many that you've helped me with. So I want to thank you so much for being such a positive influence for me, and always being there for me if I need someone to talk to. I really appreciate it. I really, really have appreciated that, my friend.
Well, I would say this. I mean, Carl, you and I are tight now. I mean, we message each other almost every day, or for sure every week. I know a lot of stuff about you that other people don't, and trust me, I'll use it if I have to. But I won't use it. I'm kidding.
Fabulous, bro.
But Carl and I are super tight, and we message all the time. And Tom and I, we don't talk as much as we should, but we talk every couple of weeks, and he's always going to have a special place in my heart. I mean, he's my partner and friend, and I love him, and I love his family. And it's been a great run, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to, talk about our career.
Absolutely, Mike, and of course Tom as well. I have to thank you as well personally. After I had the opportunity to interview you, you sent me a really nice email afterward, and it really meant a lot to me that you enjoyed it so much, enjoyed the experience. So just again, both of you as well, this is awesome. For my 150th episode to get to have Disorderly Conduct on the show. Oh, yeah. Nailed it.
This will be the only Disorderly Conduct together interview ever, right, Tom? I mean, I don't ever see this happening again.
No.
So thank you, Carl.
Yeah, Carl, I'd like to say, hey, I appreciate you having us on. It's good to rehash some of the old history of the Texas Hangmen and Disorderly Conduct. Great time every time. So God bless you guys, and Merry Christmas.
Hey.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Feliz Navidad.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Tough Tom, me, Mike, Disorderly Conduct, the Texas Hangmen. Really appreciate you both, and I appreciate you all out there that checked out my exclusive interview with two of the biggest unsung heroes in the wrestling business, Disorderly Conduct. I'm Karlifornia. This is the Insider's Edge, and we will see you down the road. Thank you.